Hello there, and thank you so much for joining me for another tutorial. My name is Erin Eno, and today we're going to be painting this expressive abstract floral using just one small detail brush. If you like this tutorial, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and drop me a comment. It really helps out my channel. And also, if you want to see more beginner-friendly tutorials like this one, please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to hit that notification bell to know when I have new tutorials out. Now grab your paints and let's get started. So today I'm going to be using my Artisto watercolor pad. It's a cellulose paper and it is 140 pound. I have my Royal Talens Van Gogh paints in my palette, a jar of water and a paper towel, and we are using just one small detail brush today. I'm using my size 2 round in the Curry's 2500 series. So this painting is just a really nice, fun, loose, abstract floral where we're not really using brush strokes. I'll kind of explain it as I get into it, but you want to pick two or three colors that go well together. I'm probably going to be using permanent blue violet, which is a deep purple, maybe some I don't know, Prussian blue or indigo, maybe some reds, and definitely some sap green for some leaves. So I'm going to start off with my permanent blue violet. So it's quite dark, and you want to have a little bit of water on your brush. Because we're using a small brush, it doesn't hold a lot of water, so you don't really run that risk of kind of overdoing it. But what you want to do is, instead of trying to do petal shapes, we're just going to put lines down, okay? Kind of rough, squiggly lines. And the paint is quite saturated, and we're just going to just roughly put them down. Then you're going to go back in. I'm going to rinse off my brush, and we're just going to kind of kiss this paint, come up to the edge of it, and move it around. So rather than kind of making these bleeds of like wet into wet, you're actually just moving the paint around. And you could at this point go in, maybe I'll take some quinacridone rose, maybe drop a little line of that in, rinse my brush off, and kind of move that around. Okay, so you can see that we're not creating bleeds, but we're rather than creating bleeds, we're pushing that paint around. And I like to keep the pigment a lot heavier down towards the bottom of the flowers. And also you might want to make a point of being sure to leave some white space in. Okay, so I'm going to leave that white space in the middle there, and you can also kind of just do some lines up the sides, and it's almost like you're kind of going in with a shaky hand, if that makes sense. Now I'm going to go and get some sap green, and it's kind of like a creamy consistency. You want a lot of pigment on your brush, but you don't run the risk of overdoing it because the brush is so small. So I'm going to tap some in down here, and I'm also just going to do kind of a rough squiggly line, almost shaky again. Then I'm going to just dip my brush in my water once and just drag this paint out. Again, kind of rough and squiggly. Going to clean off my brush and then just drag this down. Again, kind of squiggly. You just get these kind of rough, crazy leaves, like so. Now this is just sap green. As I get into more of the leaves and things, you can add some blues just to kind of change your greens up a bit. Maybe I'll do that now actually. Take a little bit of indigo, add it into that sap green, and I'm going to put a blob of it down on this stem. Again, kind of shaky, just let your brush kind of go crazy. And I've just added a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm just going to just drag that out. Okay, so you can see we're not doing petal shapes, we're just kind of pulling that pigment around. So you get these nice abstract shapes. And I think while this is wet, maybe I'll go in and start another flower. Maybe I'll start this one with indigo. And I'm going to come up here and just do these kind of squiggly lines again. Okay, and it's highly pigmented still. Maybe we'll put some quinacridone rose in here, like so. Then I'm going to rinse off my brush and just move this pigment around. Maybe I can add even a little bit of purple to this guy. Maybe a little bit more indigo. Coming down from here. Then I'll take some sap green and we'll get some kind of rough stamen or sepals kind of hanging off the bottom. So I'm just going to put a blob of green in here. Just do these shaky kind of sepal shapes. And then you can drag that down. And then what I also like to do is, while the paint's wet, just blend out an edge on one of the flowers, one or two. I'm going to do this a couple times on a couple different flowers, and I'm just going to kind of drag that out to nothing, just so it's kind of fading off. Then we can also add a stem to this one. And I'm not going to do separate stems coming all the way down. I'm going to kind of join them. So I'll do just kind of a squiggly, shaky line. And because we're using such a small brush, you can even go in and kind of double up your lines just to add a little more interest to them. Maybe add a little line of an indigo stroke in there. I'm going to mix up a bit more of the sap green. Add some indigo in there too. So I'm getting a different green this time. And I'm just going to put a blob of it here. And I'm just going to do this rough squiggly stroke up there. Then just go in with some watered down paint and just kind of drag these petals or leaves out. So you get these really kind of rough, expressive petals. You can do one coming off the other side, like so. Okay, so you can see how much paint I'm putting down there. And I'm just going to push it out. You're not worried about the shapes. You want these to be nice and abstract. Maybe I'll add a little more indigo to that green. Just play around with different values of green. And then I'm going to just kind of bring this stem up. Then what I think I will do is put a flower over here now. And I'm going to start with that purple again. Really rough strokes. Shaky, squiggly lines. You can even just flatten down with the bellier brush and push out a bit like that. Maybe I'll add in some red this time. Add in some carmine. Okay, so you're keeping these kind of a creamy consistency. And I'm just going to put a little kind of squiggle up there, maybe one up here, maybe a bit down towards the bottom. I'm going to rinse off my brush and just kind of pull that pigment around. Again, I'm going to leave some white space in here. You don't want to fill it in so it just goes all flat and muddy. I'm going to add a little bit more purple on this one. And then on this one as well, I think I will kind of drag it out just to get a kind of funky bleed bloom going on here. And I'm rinsing my brush, continually rinsing it off and going back. You can see it's quite a bit of water in there, but I just want to kind of fade it off to nothing. Just adds a little bit of interest. Then I'm going to go to that sap green. This is like the sap green and indigo mix. And I'm going to tap a fair amount of it down here. Maybe do another little sepal line up there. Rinse my brush off. Just have this kind of bleed out. Maybe I'll go in with plain sap green this time. Okay, so that's a lot of paint, and I'm just going to pull it out with my brush. And I like that hard edge at the top and then the way it fades out. Okay, and it's going to hit the stem. Maybe we'll go back to that bluey kind of green. Pull the stem down a bit. And then because I don't want this to look like all separate flowers, I'm going to start joining up some of these stems as if they're coming off this main branch. And I'll do that up here to this flower as well. Go in and put another blob here for a leaf. And you can see I'm not always going from the tip in. You can also just go and push your brush out. And sometimes that gives you these more uncontrolled kind of wavy leaves. And you can see how much water I'm putting down there. You can actually kind of see it just floating on the page. So I'm going to go and tap in some sap green there. Just like that. And maybe we will do, just to balance things out, we'll plop another little flower over here. Again, I'm going to start with the purple. And I'm going to kind of make this one look like it's on its side a little bit. But I'm still doing just these kind of squiggly, crazy shapes. Maybe I'll just add some quinacridone rose to this one. Tap some in there. Go in with my wet brush. And just kind of move and push. I'm kind of just pushing and pulling, letting the paint just kind of mingle. We're not blending it together, it's just kind of mingling on the page. Maybe take a little bit more of the purple down here. Maybe there. Go into the green. I'm going to do this one primarily sap green. Maybe pull out a little sepal. Maybe a squiggly line down here that will turn into a leaf. Like so. And just squiggle, mush my brush down. See, I'm actually flattening down the whole belly and just letting it do this crazy thing of whatever it's gonna do. And then just to add a little bit more interest, I'm just gonna do another kind of double line there. Maybe we'll just do a little blob of a leaf right in the middle here. You can just kind of build this until it's kind of balanced. I like the blue green leaves, but I really like the sap green because I like the yellow that comes out of the sap green. Tap a bit more in there, like so. Maybe get another kind of bluey green leaf coming off, coming off of here. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting a blob of pigment right on the stem and then just kind of pushing it out. Now this one's not looking so flowery. I know we want it abstract, but it's kind of not, still not quite flowery enough for me. So I'm going to add a little bit more purple here, maybe some up here, just to kind of give the impression of petals. Still abstract, but just a little more flowery. Go in with some indigo. And you can always go in and deepen the bottoms if you want. I like them dark towards the bottom of the flowers where they hit the stems. So it's perfectly okay to go back in and just go back in with your wet brush and just kind of get that paint to move a little bit again. This one's gone a little pale, so I'm just going to plunk in some more of that purple. Maybe put a line up the side like that. Maybe what I'll do is even do another bleed of the purple coming off of here. And when you do that, you just want to make sure that you keep going in with water and fading it out so it's not so drastic. And that's going to dry a lot lighter, of course. And if you want to beef up some of the edges of your leaves and the stems, just go in with some more of that green paint and just do the same thing. Just go back in and drag it out. Because you want your leaves to pop and have that contrast. A little more of that bluey green on this one here. So this is a fun technique because you're not, taking your brush and making these specific leaf shapes and stuff. You're just, you're just playing around and moving the paint around with a tiny little brush, but you're covering a lot of area. I'm going to add a little bit more pink up here. And you don't have to bleed out all your lines. You can just put some squiggles in there if you want. Like so. Like the top flower is looking a little small, so I think what I will do is go in with some quinacridone rose again and just do a petal over here. And maybe just let that soften out just a little bit. Now I think this one's looking a little flat, so I'm going to go back in with some sap green with a little bit of that blue in there. Just tap it in. Just drag that out a little bit more, but really rough. You could even just do a little squiggle of green on the other side if you want. Maybe I will kind of beef up this leaf down here. So by doing this, I'm just trying to go in and add a little bit more contrast. Maybe beef up this blue one again. And I like the blue in here and the indigo, so I think I'm going to add just a little bit of, whoop, it's gotten a little dry. Just a little bit of the indigo, just down on this guy, just to kind of marry things up a bit. Just a little bit. And then on this one, just going to bring a little bit more purple in. Maybe I'll even just do a little line of purple up there too. So they're just rough, squiggly, shaky strokes, and then you just pull out the paint and you get your flowers coming to life. And of course your leaves, just add a few little lines if you want. I think I will add one more little, almost bud-like flower here. So I'm going to use the purple and the quinacridone rose. That's not quite thick enough. I'm just going to add a little bit more. And I'm not going to make this one come out too much. I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of water, just to kind of fill that space, balance things out. Go in with some green. Just kind of let that bleed out. And then we'll join it up with kind of a little bluey green stem. And I just want to balance it out just a little bit more. Just do a little, one last little leaf down here. Not too big, just a little squiggly one. Just like that. Okay, so you saw I just did a quick little stroke there and just let it do what it wants to do. And that's it. That's all there is to doing quick abstract florals using just one brush. So this is quite a fun project just to sit down and do if you're just kind of, you know, have painter's block and just want to get some color on some paper. Just remember to keep it loose, let the brush kind of do the work for you and just move the paint around with the tiny little bit of water that's on your brush. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and that you found it helpful. I want to thank you so much for joining me again and for supporting my channel as always. Take care, and I'll see you next time.